So John, first off, why are you running for re-election?
Well, I'm very proud of all that we've accomplished over the last 2 years. And I'm running for re-election to continue the record that we've put together, to continue to promote the economic recovery, to continue to invest in our schools, and continue to make sure that Missouri maintains our balanced budget and our top AAA credit rating. I grew up here in Columbia, and it's been the honor of my career and my life to have the opportunity to serve my community, and I would be pleased to have the opportunity to continue.
What issue would you say is not getting enough attention in the legislature?
I think one thing that's not getting a lot of attention is just how much progress we've made in managing our expenses in state government, because a lot of the press that we see today is all about what's going on in Washington and the federal government. A lot of good things happening at the state government level. So, for example, a lot of people don't know that we have reduced energy usage at state agencies by 22% since 2009. That's enough energy to power almost 4,000 households for a year, or 25,000 hot water heaters. And we've done it by doing a lot of little things, using more energy efficient light bulbs, using programmable thermostats in order to let temperatures fluctuate a little bit at night in office buildings when folks aren't at work. And so that's just one example, but we've done a lot of things to cut costs during the downturn that's allowed us to maintain our balanced budget and put us in a position to continue to provide record support for our schools.
What do you think the state's policy should be on taxes and tax credits?
Tax credits are an issue that I've talked a lot about, and it's something that we need to be talking a lot more about as a community. So just to restate what these are, tax credits are essentially coupons that the state hands out to certain groups in order to promote certain types of activity, and those coupons can be used to offset taxes otherwise owed to the state. Tax credits have grown from less than 2% of our total budget to almost 8% of our total budget today. That's over $600 million. Now, the average family in Missouri doesn't get a tax credit, but groups that are effective and represented disproportionately in the political process do. That includes real estate developers in the major metropolitan areas. We have over 61 different tax credit programs, everybody from charcoal producers to grape growers have had tax credit programs at different times. And the problem with these programs is not that there's anything wrong in particular with the industries that they support. The problem is that the dispensation of tax credits lies outside of our normal budget process. So let me explain. If I, as a legislator, want to propose to allocate some of our state resources to a given program, let's say that I want to propose to allocate another $10 million of our state budget to the University of Missouri. Under House rules, I have to first submit what's called a decreasing amendment, which is to say I have to propose that we reduce spending in some other area to free up the resources to allocate to the program that I want to support. Tax credits lie outside of that whole budget discipline, and that's part of the reason that they've grown so much, and it's eating into our transportation budget, and it's eating into our education budget.
And then taxes?
Taxes, we've historically been a low tax state. We've had essentially the same core tax rates in place for many, many decades. I think the problem that we have in our tax code is the unevenness in the tax code, because whereas Missouri families have paid essentially the same rates for decades, the state government is receiving less and less revenue because other groups are receiving special breaks. So I believe that we need to have consistent low tax rates that apply equally to everybody, and not tax rates that benefit some at the expense of others.
How should the state approach education?
Well, education lies at the core of so many things that we do in state government. It needs to be our top priority. It's very simple. Half of all of our state budget, half of all of our tax dollars go to two divisions. They go to social services and corrections. And those divisions are largely our reactions to problems that already exist in the world around us. But by being smart about investing in education today, we can actually shrink those costs of government over the long term, because higher educational attainments are correlated with a lower likelihood to have to rely on state assistance as an adult, lower rates of incarceration, greater likelihood to create and produce in ways that benefit all of us. I had a very thought-provoking conversation not long ago with one of the most successful entrepreneurs in Colombia, who's built a business that's grown from 0 employees to over 800 employees over the last 15 years. And I said, what can we do as a matter of policy to support growing businesses like yours? And without hesitation, he said, double the number of IT graduates from the University of Missouri over the next 5 years. Because he said it's that skill base that's the lifeblood of our business and other businesses like ours. And he said we're growing so fast that we're beginning to fear we might tap out of that skill base here. We don't want to have to open up new operations in other places to tap into skill development in other areas. And so I think education is at the core of our efforts to promote a growing economy, core of our efforts to shrink the cost of government and costly social problems over the long term.
If reelected, what would be your top 3 priorities?
Priority number 1 is maintain fiscal discipline, maintain our dedication to a balanced budget. That means a lot of things that aren't always exciting, but finding areas to cut costs, because we live in a world of limited resources, and we can't hope to sustain our investments in things that matter so much to all of us, like education and our infrastructure, unless we run a tight ship. So that's number 1. Number 2 is unquestionably our education system. The challenges in education today are not just about funding, but we have great opportunity. We have established a good trajectory over the last 15 years. Enrollment in our University of Missouri system is up by 1/3. We need to make sure that our state commitment to our university system matches the commitment that young people make when they come to enroll here at the University of Missouri. And finally, ethics reform. We have a system here in Missouri that has gotten a little fast and loose in terms of ethics in government. Now, what I mean by that is that we're the only state out of 50 that has no legal limits on lobbyist gifts and no legal limits on campaign contributions. Each year, Missouri public officials accept nearly $1 million in personal gifts from lobbyists, and that includes things like sports tickets, concert tickets, fancy dinners, from folks who are in the official business and have registered as being in the business of seeking to influence legislation. I think that's wrong, and as vice chair of the House Ethics Committee, I'm doing everything I can to raise awareness about this issue, and I'm going to lead an effort to try to implement a full ban on lobbyist gifts in the state of Missouri. 12 other states have done it, and I think we should join them.